Hi, this is a video for my more advanced students. Um, now, for my kids under 1,000, I typically teach them to play the piano. This opening is for my advanced students. This is the opening that I play. And so if you ever wonder, like, oh, well, what does Coach John play? Well, Coach John doesn't play the fried liver. Coach John doesn't really play the piano. I'll do that to mess around and blitz. Those openings are good openings, but oftentimes advanced players know a lot of the theory. And you guys probably start to see that as you guys play more advanced players. But I'm talking about really advanced players as a masters and experts and things of that nature. So let's jump into it here. So what is the Scotch? Well, the Scotch is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then pawn d4. This move signifies the Scotch. Now, this was first played in 1824 between a match between England and Scotland, basically, is what it boils down to. And the Scottish players played this move d4, and it was forever known as the Scotch. So now we jump into it. And bishop c5, for a long time, this was considered the best move for black. And in the very beginning, it didn't have many problems. Later on, Kasparov reinvigorated the Scotch with bishop to e3, queen to f6, which bringing your queen out early. This is an example for my not so advanced players. This is an example when you specifically are told to bring your queen out early. Now, pawn to c3. This held the position together. So, after this move, I think Kasparov used this in a couple. I know he used it in the World Championship a couple times. I've personally played this many times. But of late, there's been a couple of games, starting in 2010, where white shows knight to b3, excuse me. And this is the move I want to focus on, and this is the move I will be playing in the future, and this is the move that I suggest my advanced students play. And after knight b3, bishop to b6, knight to c3, knight to e7 is probably a better try, because we see that after knight f6, Carlsen had a very famous game, the world champion. He's used the Scotch several times. And after knight to f6, queen to e2. This is a key important move. This move is like a very, very important move, critical opening position. So I've just signified this move with a blue mark. That means critical opening position. This is the move, the kind of strange move to memorize. And the idea with this is to castle queenside. And after bishop to g5, the pin proves to give white a long-term advantage. After h6, bishop h4, we're not going anywhere, buddy. We're keeping that pin all day long. Now, pawn to a5, okay, pawn to a4, no big deal. Knight to d4, we trade down the knights eventually. We get a ruined pawn structure on the queen side, no big deal. We still castle queenside. Black has no attack in this opening. d6, queen to c2. This allows your pieces to free up. This was a great move by Carlsen. Bishop d7, bishop c4, bishop there. And what happened in the game? We open up the file, and we don't have to be a genius to know that this position here is very, very good for white. And this is what we're striving to get. So if your opponent plays knight to f6 on their sixth move, you go for the pin. Here in another game, actually, was played by Negi, an Indian player who's really good. Knight to e7 was played by his opponent, and after bishop g5, d6, queen d2 here, bishop e6, castles, queen d7, king b1. That's an important move, and we often do this in the Sicilian. We do this here in the Scot. When we castle queenside, the problem is that it's weakened the backside here because the king's not normally there. So this move is oftentimes needed. Castles queenside for black, and now bishop to b5. In this game, this reminds me of the Paul Morphy and Count versus the Count and the Duke. Simple development and the pin knights. I ask you the question, do these knights even matter? Do they even exist? They're both pinned by the bishops. We've just done simple development moves besides the move king b1. So after f6, bishop back to here, queen e8, we take this bishop on b6 eventually. And when we do this, this is one of the important ideas. When we do this, now his king is very exposed. Rook to e4, rook to b4. We just start forming an attack. Here, Negi sacrificed, or I'm sorry, not Negi, but Giri. Giri sacrificed the pawn on f2. Look, how can black hope to survive something like this? And he resigned. His king's completely exposed. Let me jump into two more games here. This was the Negi game here. So after bishop c5, knight b3, knight c6, knight c3, excuse me, d6. This is probably a better test. Okay, instead of playing what Carlsen's opponent played, knight to f6 and the bishop g5. That's just real simple and straightforward. d6. And with this move, black says, I'm going to try to develop my pieces and wait to see what you do. So you play this move, once again, a critical opening move. We play the move queen to e2 here. Now knight to f6, bishop to e3. This is better than playing bishop to g5, and I'll show you why. If bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, now g5. And here black is fine because they're going to castle queenside, and all you've done is let them gain space. So going back to it, after knight f6, bishop to e3 is better. h6, castles queenside here, g3, bishop g4, pawn f3, bishop e6, bishop g2. Now, it seems like this bishop's bad at first, but it has a hidden poison. If black's king castles queenside, you will face the wrath of this bishop on the queenside. So after castles, rook he1, rook he8, bishop takes, once again weakening the king. This is a key idea. You also eliminate one of the defenders. So I might even ask, in this position here, maybe should black take this bishop? That's a real legitimate question black should maybe ask in theory here. So after bishop b6, we take, and once again we open up the king. This queen f1 move was a cute move to open up the files. So knight here, and I'll just play through these moves and you'll watch. Typical rook lift. We're going to bring this rook over here like a caveman and checkmate them and beat them over the head. So now here we're coming here. Look at that. Hey, that's simple caveman chess. It's so simple even a caveman can do it. If you remember the commercial. So here, oh wow, look at that sacrifice, because we've now formed a mating net. The threat is rook to a8, king takes, queen to a3, king over, queen checkmate. That's how you crush a grandmaster, and it can be done with the Scotch. Anyways, this lesson is for, once again, my more advanced students trying to play a more advanced opening. This is the opening that your old coach John plays. Anyways, see you guys later and have fun.